Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, thanks to Tecnifibre UK, I have the new Tecnifibre Fire to test out, so I'm super excited. This is a power racket, but because of their dampener technology, they've made some pretty big claims about how it's still comfortable, easy on the arms. We'll have to see, I'm gonna test it out. As always in this review, I'm just giving you my unfiltered thoughts as I try it out for the first time. If you want really technical reviews, you can always watch some other content creators. But for me, I just want to be honest, give you kind of a no BS, unfiltered thought as I try this racket out. As always, if you have questions, put them in the comments. But for the Tecnifibre users or curious users, put some more questions and your own thoughts and comments in the comment section, because when you guys speak to each other, that's actually when you probably get the most value when you look at a racket review. So I know that for my V-Core and Pure Aero reviews, you guys learned a lot from each other. So don't be shy. Put your thoughts in the comments, feedback, anything like that. But with that being said, let's try this beauty out.
All right, guys, let's have a look at this beautiful racket and this beautiful case. And actually, let me show you everything Tecnifibre sent. They were kind enough to send me a little note here from the head of Tecnifibre UK, which I thought was a lovely touch. And they didn't hold back. They gave me this really awesome Tecnifibre Fire branded dampeners. Tecnifibre always do these custom ones, which is really nice. I've got the Tecnifibre grip as well, which is fantastic. And then the racket itself. And a really cool touch, a t-shirt where the Fire X damp technology is explained on the back of the t-shirt. So gotta love that. But let's start with a cosmetic overview. It's glossy, it looks really good. I'm testing the 98 spec version, which means 98 square inches, 305 grams. So let's get into it. These are my initial thoughts. This is the first time I picked up this racket as you're watching. So what's my first thought with this racket? It was the fact that it was super stable, really solid, almost feels like a weapon in your hand. So when Tecnifibre say that with their dampening technology in the butt of the racket, this takes away vibrations, I'm gonna give them credit and say, look, that's not just marketing lingo. This racket really does not vibrate. So much so that you could argue it almost feels too stable and too solid, which may sound like a really funny thing to say, but I'll explain maybe a bit later why I'm saying that. But yeah, that is really the first thing I noticed. Whereas when I tried the Pure Aero a couple weeks ago, the first thing I noticed was that the racket kind of vibrated or moved and gave you more feel, which some people like. This racket is not that. It is super powerful. The ball flies off that string bed. You barely feel the ball on the string bed, and the racket doesn't really like flex or vibrate because it's being counteracted, I guess, with that counterweight of the dampening technology, right? That's what's happening. It's like buildings that are built in earthquake zones. You actually have this weight moving the opposite direction, so it stabilizes the racket. So look, that's what they said they'll do. That's what they have done. Let's go to the back and hit from the baseline because this kind of contextualizes things a bit better. So a few other immediate thoughts I had. It's very easy to swing. Like, I like the shape of the racket and the frame. Nothing crazy there. It's easy to swing. It's very powerful. Like I said earlier, the ball will fly off the string bed and you don't really feel the ball stay on the strings. Like, by the time you've realized you've hit a shot, your ball's on the baseline. Because of the power, you get lots of easy and natural depth with this racket. And that just depends. Are you someone who likes that? Or are you someone who likes to feel the ball more and you're like, you know what, let me control how I get power. I don't need the racket to do all the heavy lifting on the power for me. Maybe that's how you like it. But if you want a racket that does all the work on the power, and then you just focus on, can I get enough spin, control, and whip to control the racket and make sure I can use and not kind of lose myself to the power of the racket, then that's totally fair. And that's the conversation I ended up having here real quick, because my hitting partner Mark also tried it out before me. He said the same thing. He's like, my God, this racket is stable. You know, you think it was made of like some new sort of metal material which makes it so stable. But look, let's now go to the volleys, because I think that gives us another look and feel at this. And what I'll say is, in some ways more or less the same, but if you look at my volleys here, I'm not swinging. I'm just blocking, and you get a lot of depth and a lot of pop on those volleys. So if you're someone who's confident at the net and you can always find the sweet spot, I think you could do some real damage with the racket. But if you're less confident and you like a bigger sweet spot and you need that, margin of error, you want to hit some drop volleys and angles, you might struggle a bit more. How about the forehands? Always super important for me. It's my best shot. So how a racket performs on the forehand side is always going to be where I put almost disproportionate amount of kind of weighting on the review. As you'll see here, I like it on the forehand. I was getting a really good pop and power. You can see both of us are getting really good depth, probably more so than we usually do. I think that's because of my racket or the Fire, I should say, in this instance. And the other thing I will note is that it is a spin-friendly racket. I do not have issues generating spin, and I do not have issues getting really good net clearance. In fact, I would go so far as to say I was a bit surprised at the launch angle. I really did get some really nice loopy trajectories on my shots and on my swings on the forehand side, and also getting real power and a punch off that string bed, as you'll probably see in a couple of forehands I'm hitting. So overall on the forehand, I gotta say I'm happy. I like it. I don't really have a criticism on the forehand side because I hit with spin and therefore I can control this racket myself, and I'm not losing myself to this racket, as you'll see with shots like that. However, the backhand is a slightly different story. This is not the most forgiving racket. Let me repeat, this is not the most forgiving racket. It's better for confident players who can always find that sweet spot, because it's not a huge sweet spot in my opinion. And on the backhand side, I actually did struggle. I think before I started recording my backhands, I was consistently putting them long. So I really had to focus on whipping it, getting that spin to get my backhands to fall in. So forehand side, great, no complaints. Immediately I got it. Backhand side, I actually thought it was too powerful for me personally, right? Again, it's all very personal and we have different games and different strengths and weaknesses. But on the backhand, I had to focus over time to get these in. So I think that was because smaller sweet spot, really powerful. And so if you mistime it or you're not getting the same amount of control from your own swing, then you're in for a little bit of a trickier time. And I fit the bill for those. So that's exactly what happened to me. That's my thought on the backhand side. Let's put it all together. Let's play some points and share this footage, because it's one thing to sit stationary and hit shots. It's a whole other thing to move around and kind of hit them. Started well. Again, look, forehand, no problems. But a couple of things I want to say that I noticed when you actually play points. That serve out wide. I barely got my racket onto that. But because this racket is so stable, so strong, and has so much power, it was really good for chip returns. Now, maybe you guys don't like that, you don't care about that, but for me, and another good one there, I chip and I just block a lot of my returns. This racket was great for that because you don't have to do anything. You barely have to swing. Just stick your racket out, especially if your opponent hits a fast serve, and that chip will go back in the court and it will go back deep. So maybe a funny little nuance that, I recognize because that's how I play, but nonetheless, I recognized it. But there again, on the backhand, long immediately, right? Lost focus and it went long. How about the serve? This racket, A+ on the flat first serve. I wasn't serving that hard and swinging that hard today because my shoulder was actually really sore. But there again, you can see you get really easy pop. So I'm almost excited to try this racket when I'm feeling better on my shoulder so I can fully swing. I would say I was swinging at 70%. If I swung at 100 and you found that sweet spot, this racket would do some serious damage on that first serve. Oh, finally a good backhand. Sorry, sidebar, but finally played a good backhand. So yeah, 10 out of 10 on the flat serve. Now, because I did mention that it's still spin friendly, it's not an unfriendly racket for spin, I actually didn't have particularly any issues on the second serve either. So just want to say and reiterate, I really liked it on the serve personally. Here you can actually see I played a couple of good shots, got a cheeky little drop and put that away. Might have been my best point maybe of the session, but things were coming together a little bit more, I guess, on that point. So a quick recap, as we've been talking about points, love it on the serve, love the chip returns, but just in general, you need to know your game. You need to know your strengths and weaknesses to get the most out of this racket. And I just think you have to be someone who's confidently finding the sweet spot every time. It's not a big sweet spot. Maybe because this is the 98, or maybe because I usually play with the E-zone, which really specifically markets itself as being forgiving and having a big sweet spot. But that is one call out I will have here for you guys just to be aware of. That's not a good or bad thing. It just depends, what you guys are used to. Now, I will say also that in terms of swinging and kind of maneuverability, it's easy to swing. They've changed the racket to have more of a headlight mix, so it's meant to be kind of a little bit whippier than the old version. The only issue, I didn't use the old version of this racket, so I can't give you a direct comparison. And I'm not going to sit here and lie and tell you marketing lingo to pretend like I did, right? So those are my thoughts. The last couple of things I want to say. Maybe I need to try out the 100 square inch racket. As someone who usually plays with a 100 square inch racket, they tend to be a bit more forgiving. There's more space on that sweet spot. So maybe that's also naturally why on the backhand or just in general, I found myself struggling a little bit with this racket because it didn't let me get away with as much, right? I had to be perfect. That's how I would describe this racket. It's great if I was playing like the perfect day, everything off the middle, swinging confidently, backhands going well, I'm serving big, then this racket would do real damage. But when those pieces aren't there, it's a little trickier. So great power generation, super solid and stable, no vibrations. Kudos to Tecnifibre on that front. If you're someone who needs a little bit of feel and control and actually likes a little bit of flex and vibration feeling, maybe just try it out first before you buy it and consider other options. My last thought, would I switch to this racket? One of the best questions you can ask in a review. I'm gonna lean no because I still just don't think my game is good enough to get the most out of it. Those are my open thoughts. A full monologue, no editing in this voiceover. I hope you liked it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support and help each other out. Share your opinions with each other because everyone wins that way. Thank you guys and see you soon.